Today we wanted to talk to you about our last 9 months in the van, which was in Central America, and share with you some of our experiences, some of the best things we saw. And we also want to answer all the questions that you guys have posted for us about the region.
We spent some amazing time touring all through the United States. We have a beautiful country that we come from. You know, we went all over here, came up into the Great Lakes, were truly surprised by the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, drove across through some of our amazing national parks. You know, the Northwest has always been a favorite for us. The national parks, the beaches, some amazing cities we saw over here. In all this time, we figured out that the van Curt had built was working absolutely perfectly, and then it was time to go ahead and go into our next adventure, which is our first international border crossing into Mexico. We spent some amazing time down here in the Baja. One of the most amazing experiences of my entire life is we actually got to touch a gray whale out in the ocean in the wild. Then we took a ferry across to the mainland, saw some of the most amazing things you can imagine. The butterfly migration, beaches that you can't even explain with words. We got down in here in the Chiapas area of Mexico, saw some ruins, and it was just amazing. And in the middle of this journey, COVID hit. Everything came to a screeching halt. We rented an apartment in an amazing part of Mexico called Puerto Escondido, and it was the perfect place to lock down and be safe during the quarantine. But then we finished up our journey up here in the Yucatan, and then Mexico came to an end, guys. But it has been a beautiful journey up until that point.
This is the continent of North America, and you can see here is Greenland, Canada, the US, Mexico, and all these islands out here. And then down here you have Central America. And Central America is actually a part of the continent of North America and includes Guatemala, Belize, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Panama. And right down here at the end of the North American continent is the Darien Gap. And that's a jungle that separates North America and South America, Colombia and Panama, and is not passable by auto, which is why we're shipping our van to Colombia at least. But we did spend about 2 months in Guatemala. We spent about a month in El Salvador. We only drove through this little piece of Honduras right here 2 days, and then we crossed into Nicaragua. We spent about a month there. We spent 3 months in Costa Rica and 2 months in Panama. And I gotta tell you guys, this was a beautiful, if not life-changing experience for us. But we're gonna answer your questions right here. So we want to walk you through Central America by answering your questions.
Yeah.
What surprised you most about Central America?
That it was not as dangerous as it is portrayed to be. In the media and by people back in the States, they're like, oh, you can't go travel through Central America. That is 100% wrong. And that surprised me a bit.
It surprised me a ton. That was my answer as well. I think we tried to come into this with an open mind, but yes, it was a totally different world than what we saw. A beautiful place, and I agree. What was your most unique experience?
So I think I'm going to change up the wording a little bit on this because there's so many unique experiences, but there's one that is definitely my most memorable experience and will stay with me forever. And it's when we were in the little surf town of El Tunco, El Salvador, and we got this amazing video of this beautiful surfer girl who was destined for the Olympics. And literally like 2 days later, she passed away getting struck by lightning. And we went back to the community and just how it impacted the community and the effect her spirit had on everybody, including us. Something I'll never forget.
Yeah, it was just kind of strange how she stood out when we were filming surfers, and we got a lot of footage of her. And then when we came back, we found out actually who she was, and it was nice that we were able to give that video to the family. That was a nice thing.
Catherine Diaz.
Catherine Diaz.
Yeah, a beautiful soul.
Mine was sort of a kind of a crazy experience too, and that was on Volcano Pacaya. Now let me just tell you guys, this volcano was crazy. It was cloudy, overcast going in. We really couldn't see anything. And all of a sudden the guy tells us to hide behind some rocks because we hear some boulders rolling down here. All of a sudden the clouds cleared and we just saw this huge volcano just churning and spewing lava at us, hurling big giant boulders. And it was just both beautiful, intense, crazy, and we had to get out of there. But
and it made for an amazing video. If you haven't watched it, you want to do that. But it's also the place that got Curt put on active volcano restriction.
What was your favorite country? And if you could return, where would it be?
Costa Rica and Guatemala are towards the top for me. And if I had to return somewhere, it would not be because it was an amazing experience that I wanted to do again. It's more because I missed an amazing experience with my knees. You know, got the bad knee, and I could not hike the Pacaya volcano. And when I get my new knee, if I could go back somewhere, it would probably be to go hike Pacaya, and maybe, probably not, but maybe Acatenango volcano as well.
Now, for those of you guys are wondering why Snow would want to dodge giant volcanic rocks, we went on 2 trips in Pacaya. There's sort of a front side and a back side. The front side was much more tame and family oriented.
The easy side of Pacaya, not the crazy boulder side.
Yeah, I have to agree on Costa Rica and Guatemala for completely different reasons. You know, the wildlife and what Costa Rica has done to protect nature and the wildlife, 30% of the country is actually protected. I gotta tell you, hats off to that country. They really are a model for that type of stuff in all the world as far as I'm concerned, at least the countries I've been to. So I gotta give them credit for that. However, it did miss a lot of the more indigenous culture, sort of the more authentic stuff that I enjoyed so much in Guatemala. And then of course Guatemala had so much stuff, so it was super cool too. But the place I would go back to is Honduras because of the COVID and the testing situation and our time allotment. We kind of spent 2 days in Honduras, so I would love to go back and meet the people of that country and see what that beautiful country has to offer. What were your favorite beaches and the best surf spots?
No doubt about it, Punta Uva on the Caribbean coast of Costa Rica. And I can't even explain anything else. It's just when you ask me my favorite beach so far, Punta Uva.
Yeah, and that whole stretch down the Caribbean coast there in Costa Rica, starting up I think about Cahuita and on down to Manzanillo was
not just the beautiful beaches, but the atmosphere, the aura, the culture, everything, the people.
Oh, we saw sloths and monkeys there on the beach. Beautiful reefs that snorkel.
It was beautiful.
It was nice, and the temperature was a little bit more moderate than we would have thought, which is something we found about all of Central America, really. And then, of course, go ahead.
My favorite surf spot. This is a double-sided question, right?
Yeah.
My favorite surf spot. I am not a surfer, obviously. Don't know that much about surfing, but I would say, just from watching the variety of waves and the different skill levels of the surfers that were at this beach, El Tunco.
Yeah.
El Salvador, El Tunco.
Yeah, I would say hands down El Tunco.
If you're a surfer, put that on your list.
To be fair, we probably missed some of the best beaches in Central America. We didn't necessarily hit them all, but I would definitely agree that loved El Tunco, but we did see some other cool surfing beaches.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
What are your favorite mountains? So I don't know if volcanoes qualify, but that was my favorite type of mountains. But for mountains, I'm gonna go with just plain mountains. I'm gonna go with Nicaragua with the little coffee plantation we were out up in the mountains. I love that place.
We answered this question separately, and we haven't compared our answers. That is my answer, the coffee finca in northern Nicaragua. They're not crazy high altitudes, but man, was it beautiful up there. The rolling mountains, it was beautiful.
What were your favorite communities?
So for me, I chose Antigua And I don't know if it was the actual community and the city itself, or the little downtown historic area, or if it was how comfortable the owners of the hostel that we camped at, Christian and Iris, just felt like home there. And we stayed quite a while because we had some people come to visit us there. And I just felt comfortable there. I liked Antigua.
Well, we got to do that authentic coffee tour and meet the family, and it just felt nice. For me, you know, I gotta say, the best community that we met along the way, and we met some amazing people from all these countries, but I've always loved running into fellow travelers. Oh, yeah. And it's always nice to exchange stories about where they're from, their home countries, what it's like there, to talk about their travels, what countries they've been into, and just exchange stories like that, and who they've met along the way, and spots to go. It's something that kind of went away a lot during COVID for several months, and when all the van lifers kind of went home. But when we started traveling again, we started staying more in hostels, and we did encounter a few other travelers, and I have really super enjoyed that.
Yeah, good point.
Favorite wildlife spots?
Tikal.
Yeah.
Tikal, Guatemala, their first real destination in Central America. You know, we camped in the park itself, and then the first one's up, and the fog was still going, and the howler monkeys were screaming, and toucans flying by your head, and a fox on top of the pyramid, and
that
I don't know
place
if
was magical.
Yeah, it was just the whole setup, not just the animals we saw, but how we saw them. Tikal.
Beautiful, beautiful place, and I got to give Costa Rica another shout out here, because there was so much wildlife. I just kept going on hike after hike. I couldn't be out in the nature enough. Beautiful birds. I saw these little dancing mannequins, the quetzals, the toucans, the monkeys, the sloths. We saw
snorkeling.
So much stuff there. I've got to give it to Costa Rica. What was your favorite food?
My favorite Central American food is warm, fresh, homemade tortillas. You could turn anything into a taco with these things. These soft flour or corn, whatever, corn tortillas. They're so good, you just can buy them from people's front porches.
But my absolute favorite, and you guys probably know this, is the whole fried fish. And throughout Central America, it was all prepared similarly. I wouldn't say one country was different than the next, although one restaurant was different than the next.
My favorite meal, and I know you guys probably think there should be some extravagant things we were having, but we just crossed the border in Nicaragua. We were hungry, and border crossings are stressful. If you guys haven't watched any, we try to film them, and you'll see we get tired and grumpy, and we were hungry. And Curt pulled into this roadside street meat kind of place, and he came out with like 3 big chunks of just beef that had been cooked on the grill, and it was so good. No forks, no knives, no napkins. It came with 3 tortillas. That's what you used for like your fork. You just picked it up with the tortilla and gnawed on it. And it sounds terrible, but it was so freaking good.
Border crossing day, we were stressed, and it was very memorable for me as well. And it was good. It was like the best meat we'd had in a long time. Was all the food spicy?
No. Thank goodness, because I don't eat spicy food. You can definitely travel all through Central America and not worry about spicy food.
And I am always calling for the picante sauce, and I have not found a sauce yet that's too hot for me, have I?
There was one. You found some hot ones, but none that you turned down. Hot.
So you can find something of all levels of spiciness here. Actually, I find the food in Central America to be a little bit more, maybe bland is not the word, especially the typical food. It's not a lot of seasons.
Can I give a shout out to Mexico, even though it's not technically in Central America. It's its own place. It's got the best food.
Did you eat anything for the first time?
Nothing crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you know, each country kind of sort of had its sort of local dish. So the one that stands out to me is El Salvador had the little pupusas.
Yeah, the pupusas.
And, you know, they were kind of tortillas stuffed with meat, different than tamales and different than other variations
thick like a pancake.
Yeah.
But tortillas, they were good. You're right.
Yeah, so in a lot of countries we had things like that. Where was the food most expensive and the cheapest? In terms of food and prices in general, if you start in Guatemala and head south, everything starts to get more expensive as you go through the countries. But it just really depended on where you were at, what stores you were at. The big sort of brand stores had almost everything that you would expect in America. Not all the variety, not all the brands, but it came at a premium price. And so the cheaper foods were the more local foods that you would find in the typical markets. And there was a huge cost difference in that. I would say if you were buying groceries that were imported, it was more expensive than the US.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Cat food, along those lines, we didn't really have any problems getting cat food. Quality litter was more touch and go.
You would want to have a place to store a few big boxes of that because that was hit or miss. You could always find it, but not as easily as cat food. The cat food, it might not be the same brands as at home, and you might not find the gourmet cat food, but we were able to find good cat food that the brand stayed consistent through all of Central America. So we weren't jumping our kitties back and forth from brand to brand.
Did you feel safe traveling in Central America?
Absolutely, 100%, more than I thought we would. Just like in any region or any country, you need to do some research because there's areas to avoid, but that's everywhere in the world. That's not just Central America. And if you do that, the people are good.
Yeah.
You know, for the most part, people are good, and it's no different down here. But I do think that a video will come out sometime soon that covers that a little bit more detail. How we do the research, how we know which areas to avoid, and just precautions we may take. I mean, do you guys want to see that video?
I think
Let us know.
I do.
All right, so it looks like we'll do that video.
But I think just in terms of general safety, I think we felt pretty nervous when we first came into Guatemala, the place we entered. But I think we quickly looked around, and as Snow said, we found that there was a lot of beautiful people who wanted to help, who were interested in us, and we were certainly interested in them. And yeah.
Dude, one time I overreacted and self-induced real fear in myself, and it was completely my fault because it was Guatemala City, and I literally thought we were just driving through it for about 30 minutes to get to the other side, to Antigua, so I didn't do the research I would normally do, and then we got detoured off that main road into a neighborhood, and I didn't know anything about the neighborhood, and I scared myself.
Yeah.
But we showed y'all that in a video, and at the end we explained that, and then I went back and did the research later, and I definitely overreacted.
Yeah. I didn't feel any specific fear. I mean, you're always kind of, you know, on your guard or whatever, but I never really felt any fear. And I walked around quite a few of these cities. So.
Yes, you did.
What is the best country for internet?
The place we've probably found the fastest speeds, and that's just based on where we've had Wi-Fi, if we've rented something or been in a coffee shop or specifically looked for it, would probably be Panama.
Yeah, Panama.
But we've been able to find suitable internet in every country.
Yeah.
Not everywhere.
Yeah.
Not at all. And sometimes it's so slow you'd rather just not have it at all. But if you're coming down here and you need to work while you're down here, you can find internet in every country.
What was the best sell option we took coming into this journey, including our trek through Mexico? We took a two-pronged approach intentionally. Snow went with the Google Fi, which Google has agreements in all these countries with two of the carriers, and so sort of behind the scenes, Google Fi selects all that. It's a bit pricey. That's what she had been using. I had been using local SIM cards, so when we get into a country, I'd figure out which was the best recommended SIM card and get that. And to be honest with you, after a year of struggling with that, Snow's Wi-Fi for the most part was always stronger than mine. I had all sorts of running out of data, it not working maybe because this card worked in this part of the country and this card worked in this part of the country and I had the wrong. In any event, I switched to Google Fi.
We're both on Google Fi.
But if you're going to be doing what we did, I would highly recommend Google Fi if you have a little extra money. It's worth the amount of that frustration. How hard is it to travel without speaking Spanish?
I think we've done fine. So what I've learned is, and if you haven't watched our whole journey, when we crossed into Mexico up at Tijuana, we could probably say 5 or 6 words. Curt has obviously picked it up better than I have, but you know, I can speak very minimal. But if you're nice and you're friendly, the locals want to help you just as much as you're trying to say what they need to hear. And if things are going wrong, you can always just laugh it off and draw a picture or do some charades. The people want to help down here. So I've managed fine, you've managed fine. There are some times that being able to speak Spanish better would be helpful. The doctor or at the borders would be nice. But there's always someone there to help. You usually need to pay them. And going to the hair salon. When I'm telling the lady how to cut my hair, I wish I could speak really good Spanish. But yeah, you don't need it.
I would say for me, I would say everything Snow said. I would add that I do feel it steals from the experience a little bit. And what I mean is, there were times when I was having interactions with Spanish people or Spanish-speaking people that I would love to have a more robust conversation or learn more about them or what's going on in that area. And so those are things that you just don't get the full advantage of. When do you decide to leave a certain spot? Do you have a fixed rule, like a day or 2?
So this is the best part about traveling in a van. If you love somewhere, you stay. If you hate it, you drive away. It's literally the only time that we have a schedule is if our visa is about to expire or the permit for our van to be in the vehicle is about to expire. So we pretty much have freedom till you see us getting close to a border, and then we're coming up on some time constraint.
How do you decide where to go next? And so I think this is another topic. You know, Snow does a lion's share of our logistics and planning, and I think we really need to do a video to show you guys what this looks like. It's a multi-step process.
Yeah, it's Google, it's YouTube, it's iOverlander, it's suggestions from you guys. There's a process we go through. We're getting pretty good at it. Yeah, and we do get a lot of suggestions from you guys, and what I would tell you is if you have suggestions on a country, send it to us like a month or 2 months before you think we're going to be there. Because that's when we start kind of mapping stuff out.
Yeah, so...
And we missed a few good spots because the map's already been created.
So now is the time to start sending out your suggestions for Colombia,
Ecuador,
Peru.
Brazil. Tell us about it.
Yeah, and if you want to see us along the way and you're in one of those countries, hit us up. We get a lot of people who hit us up after we leave and say, oh, we saw you were just there, we just missed you, we'd love to meet you guys. So now's the time, if you're in South America, to start reaching out to us and messaging us. When you do anything differently about the van, and this is something we talk about kind of as it happens in our travel series and in our videos, and I hate to keep saying this, but this is kind of a big thing for us, and I'm going to do a video specific to the things we would do differently. But at a high level, the van is working out very well for us. I think maybe on a lot of levels better than we anticipated. But you're always kind of looking to improve some stuff or maybe make some tweaks. And so we're going to put a video together. How do you feel about the YouTube community so far?
All right, guys, when we first decided to share this journey with you, I will not lie, it was a little intimidating, a little scary, putting your life literally out there to what we thought would be strangers and, of course, possible trolls. But it is the complete opposite. There's been 2 or 3 trolls, but I'm not afraid to put the block on them. And you guys are literally like a little family to us. When we are reading through the comments, we laugh about them, we read them to each other, we're like, oh, look what, you know, she said this time, and this and that and the other. And so it literally, at first it was wanting to share this journey with you, to show you that it could be done. And now it literally feels like you're in the van with us.
Hearing from your comments really is a rewarding experience. It kind of helps us know if you're enjoying our content, if we need to tweak it a little bit, or what direction we need to head in. But having you guys along the journey is
a big part of the journey. We love it.
It really is. So thank you guys for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video on what Central America was like. As always, if you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Don't forget to jump over to Instagram and give us a follow. We'd love to see you over there. We've really improved our Instagram game. We've been putting in a lot more pictures and videos to kind of fill the gaps between our videos. So hope you guys head over there and enjoy it. But thank you so much for joining the journey.
Yeah.